I call my dad, who's a sheriff's officer?
Ever wonder what happens when an officer's own kid gets caught breaking the law? We'll see two dads faced with this exact scenario, but their reactions couldn't be more different. Welcome to Cam's Life. Buckle up, because today we're diving into the messy world of law enforcement and the thin line between duty and family. One prioritizes justice, the other tries to exploit his power. Then we'll shift gears and see how a seemingly minor traffic stop for a law student turns into a tense situation. Let's roll the tape and see how these stories unfold. It was December 28th, 2022. A frantic call crackled through the police scanner. A witness reported a hit and run involving a white vehicle that smashed into a traffic light before speeding away, leaving behind a piece of its bumper like a calling card. 15 tense minutes later, John and his team located the suspect's vehicle at a gas station across town. But as they approached the car, a jolt of disbelief coursed through John. Behind the wheel, staring back with wide, terrified eyes, was his own daughter, Teresa.
Applebee's.
You come back from Applebee's?
Yeah, I had a drink.
Okay. How old are you?
21.
You're 21?
Yeah.
A knot of dread tightened in his stomach. This wasn't supposed to happen. Teresa, at 21, should have been at home, not embroiled in a criminal situation. Teresa, desperate and perhaps clinging to a shred of hope, blurted out, "My dad's a cop." Maybe, just maybe, that badge would shield her from the consequences. But the seasoned officers at the scene knew better. This wasn't just a case of a young adult caught smoking marijuana, a transgression John could have handled quietly. There were glaring inconsistencies in Teresa's story.
Because I already hit something.
Okay.
When I hit a deer in Pennsylvania because I go to school and this part was hanging off already.
Okay.
The claim about a pre-existing bumper damage from a separate accident in a distant state seemed like a flimsy excuse. It was too convenient that a car matching hers would lose its bumper right after hitting a traffic light. John was caught in a vice. As a father, his heart ached for Teresa. But as an officer sworn to uphold the law, he couldn't simply turn a blind eye. Teresa, sensing the gravity of the situation, might have had a plan, a desperate gamble to wriggle out of this mess. But would it work? Only time would tell.
Can I call my dad, who's a sheriff's officer?
Let the one officer come here who's out with your other part of your bumper. He's going to talk to you, and then we'll go from there, okay?
Teresa's desperate pleas to the officers about her dad being a cop fall on deaf ears. It's clear she's hoping for a rescue mission, a way out of this mess, but the experienced detectives are piecing together the puzzle. Through their conversation, they manage to squeeze some truths out of Teresa. She admits to hitting something, being more intoxicated than they initially thought, and texting while driving. A trifecta of driving offenses, each with its own consequences. With the truth bubbling to the surface, the detectives decide to bring in Teresa's father, John. But instead of the expected hero's arrival, the tone of the conversation shifts.
What's going on?
Hey, John, how are you? So your daughter hit a traffic law. Go back and check. Okay. Where's the damage on the car?
Okay, the damage on that car, on the car there, I think it was like the front right bumper.
John, addressed as Cracker by the detectives, likely a nickname used amongst colleagues, confirms the earlier deer incident and damage to the front right bumper. However, the extent of the current damage far exceeds anything a deer could cause. John's confirmation dashes Teresa's hopes of a quick fix. It appears her situation is about to get a whole lot more complicated. Just 5 minutes later, John arrives at the scene, ready to confront the situation head-on. The detectives...
This is at a
Yeah, so you know where back entrance for Lowe's is?
Yes.
Where like LA Fitness is in that intersection?
Yes.
So look at the telephone pole by the Lowe's sign.
This was intact.
Okay.
This piece was missing, but these scratches here,
Those are all from.
that's all from a deer that she tried to avoid.
Likely the ones who called him in, waste no time diving into the car's damage. They point out the piece of bumper found at the hit-and-run scene. John confirms the missing bumper section, but clarifies the existing damage. He explains that the prior scratch was indeed from a deer incident, but the current damage far more extensive, doesn't match. John's calm and clear explanation stands in stark contrast to Teresa's frantic pleas. He readily admits fault for the Deer incident, a stark contrast to potential corruption. The officers on the scene, perhaps initially expecting John to pull rank or make excuses, seem surprised.
Who's the officers? So right now, this is going to be my call. Okay. Surprise coming out. Okay, gotcha. He's going to be providing more details. Okay, who's your supervisor? Sorry, John Martin. Not John Martin, dude. I got it.
John's request for the supervisor's name further fuels their suspicion of potential corruption in law enforcement. However, their apprehension quickly dissipates. John's focus is on gathering information, not manipulation. He checks his phone for messages from Teresa, meticulously building a timeline of events.
So what time did you stop her at? Because she probably got nervous, and I'm not saying we know that's not an excuse. I get it. But time do you think that initial call came? Because she probably hit it and was like, Dad, what the do I do?
Probably, I would say, somewhere between 10:45 and 11.
That's about right.
His actions paint a clear picture. John prioritizes justice over familial ties. The scene unfolds further. John, piecing together the timeline from Teresa's texts, estimates the accident happened between 10:45 and 11 p.m. He expresses frustration. Teresa, knowing he's a cop, should have known better. One of the detectives ponders if she even saw the car she hit, consumed by panic. John, while cooperative with the investigation, is politely asked by the sergeant to step back to avoid any appearance of impropriety. So far, the officers have handled the situation by the book, a refreshing contrast to potential corruption. They revisit Teresa's claim of one drink at Applebee's. Mounting suspicion leads to a field sobriety test administered by John himself, right by the police vehicle. The results are damning. Teresa gets whisked to the station for a blood alcohol test, which confirms their fears. A BAC of 0.17%, double the legal limit. The story ends with Teresa facing the consequences. A court summons arrives for driving under the influence, reckless driving, and failing to report the accident. Her desperate attempt to exploit her father's badge backfired spectacularly. The narrative perfectly contrasts two fathers caught in similar situations. John and Kenneth Adams' dad. John, faced with his daughter Teresa's reckless behavior, prioritizes justice over family. He cooperates with the officers, even conducting the field sobriety test himself. John's actions showcase proper police protocol and a commitment to upholding the law, even when it involves his own child.
What do you want me to do? Well, we're letting you take the car so we don't have to impound it.
I don't want it impounded.
I know, that's why we're letting you take it.
Okay. Where's Kenneth?
He's in jail. They took him.
You already took him to jail?
They took him to jail, and I stayed here with the car.
Why?
For a warrant.
Who do I call to find out?
To find out the warrant?
You're a police officer. Tell me who I call to find out why he's in jail.
In stark contrast, Kenneth Adams' dad attempts to abuse his power as a commissioner to shield his son from legal repercussions. When Kenneth, pulled over for a minor traffic violation, is revealed to have a warrant, his father intervenes. Instead of accepting the situation, he becomes defensive and questions the validity of the warrant.
This is absurd.
Mr. Adams, you do have an active warrant for your arrest.
And who issued the warrant, though?
The courts have it issued.
For what, though? Because I've gone to court for everything. There should not be an active warrant for me anywhere, dude.
This blatant attempt to use his influence undermines trust in authority and highlights the dangers of potential corruption. The contrasting scenarios effectively illustrate the importance of following protocol and respecting the law, even for those in positions of power. Kenneth tries to argue his case, insisting he'd already faced the consequences for his burglary charges. In many cases, the burden falls on the defendant to prove they've completed court-ordered tasks like attending classes. Without that proof, the warrant remains active. Kenneth simply forgot to submit the paperwork, leaving the system with no record of his compliance.
I gotta be careful with this stuff, Bruce. You understand that? Okay. That's the warrant. Okay, so it says warrant status active, offense burglary, burglary, theft, criminal mischief, burglary of a vehicle, burglary of a vehicle, burglary of a vehicle.
He's already been to court over that.
The officer explains the warrant stemmed from felony burglary charges back in October. Kenneth maintains he's already been through the process, but the officer details the charges. 2 counts of burglary, theft, and 3 separate vehicle burglary charges. Kenneth's confusion highlights a potential flaw in the system. How can a seemingly resolved case resurface unexpectedly? The situation takes a turn when Kenneth is taken into custody. Enter Bruce Adams, Kenneth's father, who conveniently happens to be the county commissioner. The narrative throws shade at Bruce's intentions, hinting at potential corruption. He immediately demands answers, his tone suggesting a disregard for proper procedure. Bruce, the county commissioner, rolls up to the scene with an air of entitlement. He questions why Kenneth is in jail and demands answers from the officer, who cautiously explains the warrant for burglary charges. Kenneth echoes his father's claims, insisting he'd already been to court and complied with his sentence. He throws around the phrase, plea and obey, suggesting he followed through on the court's orders. The situation escalates as Bruce attempts to exploit his position. He dismisses the warrant as false and threatens to sue the arresting officer.
Who knows?
The courts. The courts are the only ones who know.
I can't get to the court until Monday
Right.
because of a son of a bitch and false arrest.
You saw the warrant right there.
This heavy-handed approach reeks of corruption as Bruce tries to bend the law to protect his son. The officer, however, stands his ground. He maintains that the warrant is valid and highlights the legal process. Only the courts have the authority to release Kenneth. This creates a tense standoff, showcasing the potential clash between authority figures and the importance of upholding the law, even in the face of pressure. Despite Bruce's attempts to strong-arm the situation, Kenneth is eventually released, the warrant withdrawn, and incredibly, no further action is taken against Bruce. This outcome casts a shadow of suspicion, hinting at the potential influence wielded by those in positions of power. The story then shifts to another instance of contrasting treatment, Marion Humphrey Jr., the son of a retired county judge. Marion is pulled over after an officer claims to have witnessed him driving dangerously. However, dashcam footage appears to show a minor swerve after missing an exit. Hardly cause for alarm. The officer approaches Marion with a strong accusation, suggesting he nearly wrecked his car. Marion, aware of his rights as a law student, questions the validity of the stop.
When did you rent the car?
Yesterday.
Then you gotta take it, turn it back in a Fayetteville?
I don't.
Pick it up in Fayetteville?
I'm sorry, sir. Is it? I'm trying to figure out that you have probable cause to stop me.
Specifically, whether the officer has probable cause. This sets the stage for a potential showdown between an officer and someone who understands the legal system. The officer struggles to justify pulling Marion over. He claims Marion appeared nervous, but being nervous isn't a crime. In fact, Marion stays calm and collected throughout the entire interaction. Marion, a law student, demonstrates respect for the officer while asserting his rights. He asks questions and even calls his father, a retired judge, to join the conversation on speakerphone. This clearly frustrates the officer, who then requests to search Marion's U-Haul. Marion maintains his composure as the officer searches the vehicle with a canine unit. The officer alleges the dog detected narcotics before even entering the U-Haul, but Marion disputes the claim. He's ultimately placed in handcuffs and detained for over an hour. The situation with Marion takes a turn for the worse. Despite his calm demeanor and compliance with the officer's requests, Marion is handcuffed and detained for over an hour while the police search his vehicle with a canine unit. The officer claims the dog detected narcotics before even entering the U-Haul, a tactic that can sometimes be unreliable. Marion, however, disputes this claim. Predictably, the search yields nothing. In response to the violation of his rights, Marion sues the officers involved, citing violations of his Fourth Amendment right against unreasonable searches and seizures and his 14th Amendment right to due process. And that's all for today's look at the complexities of law enforcement. Who knew navigating the legal system could be so dramatic? If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and leave a comment letting me know what other legal oddities you'd like to see explored on Cam's Life. Thanks for watching.